Don't follow your passion. Follow the American dream. Score high on a bunch of tests so that you can study STEM at a prestigious school, so that you can get a job where you can make a lot of money, making someone else even more money, so that you can indulge in luxuries such as having food to eat, a place to sleep, and a therapist to convince you that this is all worth it despite the crippling anxiety and depression you face every single day. As someone who had no idea what I wanted to do growing up, this was the path I sleepwalked along for most of my life. Because I wasn't exceptionally smart or a nepo baby, I tried to achieve success early on by going through a really fun process called suffering. Basically, I rose and grinded my way through the education system, getting A's but catching many, many L's as I sacrificed sleep and my sanity for that sweet, sweet academic validation. And honestly, it was kind of worth it. With good grades and an application that made it seem like I had more than 2 brain cells, I eventually got to study at Oxford. There, I made lifelong friends, got to learn from people who were both smart and kind, and was constantly assured that I would go on to do great things. It was the first time in a long time that my depression just peaced out for a bit.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Unfortunately, there's a humiliation ritual you have to go through to prepare for life after school called getting a job. There seemed to be a certain set of paths that everyone around me was going down, so I decided that it would be best to just choose one of those and hope for the best. Since I studied a tech-related degree and had gotten some relevant experience, I started applying to jobs at tech companies while studying, then eventually applied to some more, and then just a couple more. But it turns out that finding a job in an industry undergoing mass layoffs is kind of hard. I had to compete with people who had way more experience than me for fewer and fewer jobs. The anxieties of not being employed, paired with increasing feelings of inadequacy after each rejection and ghosting, caused my depression levels to skyrocket. Eventually, though, after several months of applying and interviewing, I landed a role. Finally, I thought, my career would start and my depression would stop. I was feeling pretty great for 2 months, and then I got laid off. During the meeting when I was told the news, all I could think about was how cooked I was because I'd have to enter the job market again. For those of you who haven't had to look for a job recently, let me give you a little taste of what it's currently like so you can understand the fear that I was feeling in that moment. Typically, you start by sending off endless applications and hope that your credentials match the needs of the role. That is, the words in your AI-generated resume match the words used by the company's AI screening tool. If you pass this stage, you'll likely get contacted by HR so that you can prove that you deserve to eat and not sleep on the streets. Sometimes that comes in the form of a call, and sometimes that call comes without warning and you aren't able to take it because you're busy. So they leave a voice message telling you to call back, but then send you an automated rejection email 10 minutes later as if they didn't just tell you that they wanted to speak to you. This is definitely not something that has happened to me. But if you do successfully set up some interviews, you'll meet with a bunch of people who will use different criteria to judge whether you'd be a good fit at the company. That is, as long as the interviewer shows up on time, or shows up at all, and as long as they don't tell you at the start of the interview that you don't have the right experience or that you're overqualified, despite having access to a document that clearly states your qualifications. Now, what goes on during the rest of this process will vary depending on the role and company you've applied to, but you may hear a lot of the same values getting tossed around by all of these different companies. You know, things like communication, time management, accountability, and professionalism. This will make a lot of sense when they wait 2 months to send you a generic rejection email from a no-reply address after subjecting you to 7 rounds of interviews and a 20-hour assignment. So yeah, finding a job right now can be a pretty mentally draining process. You have to be enthusiastic about working at a place where the interviewer looks like they want to quit, answer questions that don't seem relevant or legal, and try to ask for your worth when companies make you feel like you're worth nothing at all. I think another layer of frustration I've dealt with is that sometimes people will justify and defend the actions of these companies, saying that's just the way things go. But what if we made them go another way? I'm just a bit concerned about the lack of concern shown towards job candidates, especially those who have kids, or health problems, or basically any other problem that's exacerbated by unnecessary stress or ambiguity. Overall, I don't imagine practices that breed feelings of corporate resentment, financial insecurity, and mental burnout make for a particularly healthy society. I think these feelings are also difficult to deal with because they infiltrate all aspects of your life. For instance, I sometimes find myself withdrawing from friends because I don't want to burden them with all of my negative thoughts, which is also why I'm yapping on YouTube. I also have trouble using social media and even opening LinkedIn because social comparison goes crazy on there. I don't think having a degree from a prestigious school entitles me to a job, but I think it can intensify the feeling that you are so far behind everyone else. I scroll through my feed and see people not just with jobs or scholarships, but what seem like the best jobs at the best companies or the most selective scholarships at the most selective schools. And I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but sometimes I have a really hard time waking up because in the moments right before I gain full consciousness, my brain serves me the most anxiety-inducing versions of my future. Overall, it feels like I have time, but I can't enjoy it. I'm well rested, but I'm always exhausted. And I'm suffering just for the chance to continue suffering, but in a fluorescently lit office. Okay, that was kind of emo, so now I'm going to talk about what I've been doing to help me get through this period. I was actually way more depressed a couple of months ago, but I'm doing better now, so I just wanted to share some tips in case it can help anyone else who's also job hunting at the moment. My first tip is to do things that provide you with a sense of accomplishment or fulfillment. When you're in school or have a job, you have projects that you can work on, submit, and get feedback on, and so you regularly feel like you're completing something. But when you have no job and spend your time crafting applications, preparing for interviews, or working on assignments, only to get rejected or ghosted, it's hard to feel like you've done anything with your time. So I recommend developing habits or starting projects that give you that sense of accomplishment. For instance, going on a short walk every day, doing an activity with your friends, or building something you've always wanted to. Going hand in hand with this, I would try to limit unproductive social media use. I personally deleted most social media apps from my phone because I found myself checking them whenever I felt any sort of job hunting induced discomfort. But then I would just compare myself to others on there and rot my brain even more, so eventually I just made them go poof. And finally, I tried to change my mindset about the whole situation. Instead of thinking that my life was over, I began to think about how, if I were to survive this period, I would become an extremely resilient person. The harder things get, the more resilient I'll become. I also found this concept called the plateau of latent potential really helpful in the context of job hunting. It's kind of like this meme showing how your efforts are not wasted just because they're not immediately rewarded. As long as you're steadfast and persistent, you're making progress, and this will eventually lead to some noticeable results. To put it another way, if you're going through hell, keep going. Why would you stop in hell? Okay, shout out to anyone still watching. I might be talking to the void here, but if you have any layoff or job hunting stories or just one event, please share in the comments. I currently have lots of free time to read them. And if you want to hear more about how I'm feeling about the corporate world, feel free to watch my last video.